Hey friends, Ed McDonough here, and welcome to Livestream Wednesday, coming to you from Walpole, Massachusetts, and streaming live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on livestreamwednesday.com. And today, I'm absolutely thrilled to have on the show Tom Libby, co-founder of Smarketing CONNECT. Now, Smarketing CONNECT is a community of sales and marketing professionals who provide services for small businesses. And I've been on their partner or one of their partners for a while. So it's great to be here sharing this information with you. So Tom, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ed. I appreciate it.
It's really great to have you here. So before we jump into the Smarketing CONNECT stuff, why don't you give everybody just kind of like a brief background of what you're doing other than Smarketing CONNECT and what you've done in the past and your sales career and stuff like that.
Sure. I'll make it as quickly as I can because I've been in sales for a long time. So sometimes that takes a little while to tell the whole story. But as brief as I can, I was a sales rep. I got into sales about mid-20s. I spent some time in the restaurant industry first. So I went from the restaurant industry to sales. I think I was a sales rep for all of about 5 minutes when I realized that I really didn't want to do this tactical stuff day to day on my own, and I'd rather manage. So I really busted my butt and became a sales manager and then a VP of sales and so on and so forth. About 8 years ago, myself and a partner started a company called Diversified Sales Solutions, where we basically provided full service outsourced sales to small companies as well as sales consulting on the side. So I shouldn't say on the side. It was just part of our offer, our service offerings. So we started DSSI about 8 years ago and come to realize that a lot of small business owners get very confused on whether or not they actually need sales help or need marketing help. And sometimes they're hiring consultants on one way or the other, and they're asking them opposite questions. And just to give you a very brief example, as a sales consultant, I was getting asked questions quite often about marketing stuff like, hey, I have this logo I want to redo. What color do you think I should use? And I'm like, how the heck would I know? I'm a sales guy, right? Like, so we were getting asked a lot of marketing questions. And my partner and I realized really quickly that small business owners just need something to understand there's a difference between sales and marketing. So we kind of built it. That's where we came up with Smarketing CONNECT.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that was actually my next question is where'd the idea come from? So how long has Smarketing CONNECT been around now?
So in its current form, it's probably only been around for about a year and a half or so. And I say its current form because we went through a couple of iterations of this, but we started it, I think about 2.5 years ago, worked on it for about 6 months, realized we needed to change a bunch of things, and then worked on it for another 6 months and realized we needed to change a couple of things. But the iteration that we see right now is probably about 18 months that we've been around.
Yeah, awesome. Because I think I've been, a partner with you guys for about a year now, close to that. I don't remember the exact date, but so there's two parts to Smarketing CONNECT. There's a part for businesses, and there's a part for marketing professionals. So can you take us through what the different parts are and kind of explain who fits where?
Absolutely. So on the one side of the coin, to your point, it's basically small businesses, small business owners, people that are really looking for help. They're looking for sales and marketing help, and they either don't understand how to navigate the questions on Google, or they don't understand whether they need sales or marketing help, as I mentioned earlier. And it's free to the small business owner. So if there are small business owners watching this, please feel free to hop on, sign up for our newsletter, get on. All the information on there is free. There's blogs, tutorials, videos, podcasts. I mean, pretty much whatever you need to know. And the idea behind it for them was, we understand that a lot of small business owners really want to try to do this stuff themselves before they go out and hire a consultant. So we're going to try to give them as much information that we can to try to get that done. In the meantime, if they don't, and they really just want to hire that consultant, we're definitely giving them the information to make that hiring or that partnering decision more educated and better for themselves. On the other side of the coin, we have the sales and marketing professionals that actually produce the content that we use for the small business owners. So the idea here is, we have a directory full of sales and marketing professionals that produce content on their own already, and we just become another version of a content distribution machine for them. So we basically get it out to our audience, which is, again, full of all small business owners and small business professionals. So the directory members, one of the unique things about us is unlike other directories where you can find everything and anything under the sun about business, you have categories of business segments like HR and finance operations and so on and so forth. And then sales and marketing kind of gets stuck in there sometimes. For us, it's strictly sales and marketing. There are no other consultants on the platform in the directory. So if you are a small business owner, you come to us, you read, you want a little bit more help, you don't have to leave us to find it. You can find both sales and marketing professionals on the platform. And again, makes it a little different because most of the other platforms are really geared toward either sales or marketing. There's no real place where you're finding both of them on the same on the same platform at the same time.
Right, right. And what about from the professional side? So the marketing professionals, talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So we've encountered a couple of different things as we're talking to our professionals, the people that are on our directory. Number one, regardless of how good we are at our own jobs, meaning, if you're an SEO guy and you're awesome at SEO for your clients, or if you're an email marketing person, typically we're really good at our own jobs, but most of our business actually comes from referrals. So so we're basically trying to build a referral network of sales and marketing professionals that are just more complete than you'll find elsewhere. Again, like I said, some of the other platforms, and I won't mention any names, but the very heavily marketing platforms, you can find other marketing professionals, but you will not find a sales consultant like, say, myself, that could refer business to you. So Smarketing Connect is the only place that you find both of them at the same time. So we go basically kind of facets. So there's one facet where our job is to connect each other, ourselves to each other, which is all the sales and marketing professionals, so we can build our own really good network of referral partners. But we also take opportunities to take those people and promote them out. So we feel our job is to get exposure for those professionals. So if you are an email marketing person and you're writing a great blog on email marketing, we put it in our newsletter, we put it on social media, we put it out for you. We give you a range in a broader audience that you probably can't get on your own. Most of our numbers are a little bit better than at least individual people's numbers, not necessarily every organization, but at least individuals. Does that answer your question?
It does, and of course I know about it because I'm part of it. But I just want to make sure that the viewers do. And by the way, if you have any questions, just type them in, and we'll try to get to them as we go through this. So I know for myself, the exposure that I've gotten through Smarketing Connect has been awesome. It's been really great to be a partner with you guys and be a part of the program. So I know there's a lot of education pieces on there. And one of the things is Smarketing You. So can you talk to us a little bit, tell folks what that is all about?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a couple of different pieces to it. Number one, so we've partnered with a couple of different people in order to get Smarketing You really up and off the ground. But again, it's really geared toward the small business owner learning and educating themselves for one of two reasons. Either A, that they want to, whatever functionality they're thinking about, or whatever discipline of marketing or sales that they're thinking about, that they can go and try to do it on their own. So we give them actual tips and tricks and tactics and methodologies and stuff like that they can actually learn and utilize, number one. Or number two, at least educate themselves well enough so that if they're going to hire a consultant, they now know exactly what they're looking for and looking at. So Smarketing You is basically a collection of quick tip videos, very short, articles to read, or very quick tips and things like that. But we also have a partner with a company called Digital Toolbox, where it's a bit more in depth, and you can actually take classes like that. But that's not directly through Smarketing Connect; it's through one of our partners at Digital Toolbox.
So Tom, thanks for sharing that. What about what's a common thing that you hear from the business side, not the marketing professionals, but the business side? What's a common thing or a common thread that you hear, that they ask you over and over again, that may be beneficial for our viewers to know that this is something that they can come to Smarketing Connect for and find the information or get the answers?
So questions that we get asked by them, or just just general statements?
Yeah, well, maybe both. If you can think of both, that would be great. But just like if you're hearing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I think part of it, and why, again, because we had to pivot a couple times, this is kind of, to your point, one of the things that happens, right? So we've figured out that this happens kind of in two stages, right? and I'm going to say something, and I hope I don't offend your audience, but most small business owners are a little narcissistic, right? Like, so I think you kind of have to be. Yeah, guilty.
I raised
So
my hand.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think you kind of have to be a little bit in order to get the intestinal fortitude to jump out on your own, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it took us a little while to realize that part of it, because we were originally geared toward just being a matchmaker. Like, you're a small company, you need sales and marketing, we're going to connect you to the right person, bam, done. Not realizing that a lot of times they want to try it on their own first. They want to see if they get in over their heads before they go out and hire that consultant. It's a very high percentage. Most of us will try just about anything on our own as a small business owner before we go pay for it, right? That's like the idea. So that's why we changed it up a little bit, and we said, okay, well, if you're going to try to go do it on your own, at least let us give you the tools and the knowledge and some of the background, so you can at least you don't do any damage to yourself, is really the most important part.
Right.
And if you really hit it out of the park and you realize, hey, I'm a plumber, but I understand this SEO thing. I'm going to work on my own SEO. I'll be fine. Good for you. I think that's phenomenal. But if you do get in over your head, then you can come back to us. I think the most important thing for us to remember is we're giving them a lot of information, and it's a lot of information to take in. The key to it is, if they do get in over their head, they don't have to go elsewhere to search for the help. We give them the help as well, is really the most important part. So they get to satisfy both sides of the coin for themselves. They get to be narcissistic and try it on their own. And if they realize they can't do it, then they can be humble enough to just go find somebody to help right on the same platform. So they don't have to leave the platform to do so.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I know that, Susan also has groups where she brings people together and helps make those connections too. And that, that's been a hugely valuable, I don't even know if hugely is even a word, but that's been a very valuable thing for me, that, making those connections. Can you talk a little bit about what that process and what happens there?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and again, part of what I mentioned a little earlier was, creating those networking groups that are the referral partners. So we figured out that most sales and marketing professionals, regardless of how good they are at their own discipline of sales or marketing, they rely on referrals quite a bit. So we basically made that happen for them, where we take our directory members and we pull them into private meetings. It's not open to the public. It can't be joined by anybody and everybody. It's usually by invitation only. So we bring them in, and we try to kind of line it up where we don't have the same type of person in the meeting with the same type of person. Meaning, we're going to try really hard not to have 3 different or 4 different website developers and then 2 social media people in the same meeting, right? Like, so we keep the meetings nice and small so that they're intimate enough where you can learn from each other, learn about each other, ask each other some questions at the end. But we kind of rigid. We do the very similar thing that I do on our podcast, where it's a pretty rigid series of questions that we ask everybody in the meeting, so that you learn and you get to understand who does what. Now, that being said, we encourage you to interact after that meeting, which is kind of the important part. We want to make it so that we're having these meetings for your introductory purposes, and then you create your own relationships, which kind of leads me to one real thing. I know you probably look like you want to ask another question, but
no, keep going.
So for the directory members, it's going to be really important that we're, this whole peer process, we call it the peer community meetings, but this whole peer process is actually going to have its own version of a communications platform with our mobile app. We're developing a mobile app right now where all of the directory members are going to be able to communicate with each other inside of it once they get to that peer meeting. So you join the peer meeting, you meet everybody. Once you complete that peer meeting, you're now connected to them on the app. Without the peer meeting introduction, you cannot connect with them on the app. It's a closed system. So we're going to be able to really fortify those relationships and allow them to communicate with each other. And we're still a part of it. So that's kind of that. So it's not just email to email at that point. We're going to be able to facilitate some of those relationships and really help you grow them. The other thing that the mobile app will allow us to do is kind of track who's been in what meetings with each other, so that we can make sure that, say you and I were in the same meeting 3 times together, Ed, maybe we make sure that we're not in the same meeting together for a while so that we can meet new people. Yeah. So that's kind of the way that we're trying to really help facilitate relationships during this, throughout the directory piece.
That is like unbelievably powerful. So that is so cool. I'm glad to hear that. I'm excited to take part in it too. So, you mentioned podcasts. Can you talk to us a little bit about the podcast series, how that works, how people get on it, and kind of the benefits of listening to it?
Yeah. So I think I love it because I host it, right? And I just think it's kind of cool. But to get on it is actually quite simple. It's only for our directory members. So the only people that I interview on our podcast are sales and marketing professionals on our directory. Now, that said, the benefit to the rest of our community is, again, you are a small business owner and you want to understand the mindset of somebody who is doing SEO or email marketing or social media marketing or something like that. You get to listen to the podcast and they give you some really cool tips and tricks and things about them. So there's a kind of a twofold thing that happens. You kind of learn some things on your own, or not on your own, but you learn some things by listening to the podcast, but you also learn enough about that professional that you might send you over the top for reaching out to hire them, which again is really what my goal is to get exposure for our directory members and make sure that people really understand that we have some phenomenal people on our platform and really talented in sales and marketing.
That's awesome, and I was on the podcast. I really enjoyed doing it, and you do a great job at it. So kudos to you.
I appreciate that.
So talk to us about, I know. Well, actually, I don't want to say this. I'll let you say it. So for businesses, it's free to join the community. Talk to us about the membership levels and what they are for marketing professionals who want to get on there, want to get more exposure, want to be exposed to the large business audience that you have on the platform.
Yeah. So I actually think it's quite easy. And quite honestly, I've been told by several of our members that they think it's underpriced. I disagree, by the way. I think it's perfectly priced, but I'll explain after. But the idea here is our barrier to entry is very minimal. I mean, it's like $9 a month or $90 a year. It's very simple, but for that simple price, you get a simple exposure of it. So it's the directory. You get the directory listing. You get you're on the platform. You get to be we announce you to the audience. So we do at least do one announcement, and then if you do write a blog that we can highlight, we'll highlight the content. We'll give you credit for it. But it's really a minimal thing. It's really not that exciting. As you move up in the tiers, we have 3 tiers. So it's $9 a month or $90 a year. $21 a month or $210 a year, or $44 a month and $440 a year. Each one of them, you save 2 months if you buy for the full year up front. So you save the 2 months. But as you go up in the tiers, your level of exposure increases as well. So the number of times we put you in the newsletter, the number of times you can be on the podcast, because we have 3 different versions of the podcast, by the way. So the podcast is a get to know you podcast, and then there's a 5-minute follow-up. And we just started recording, by the way, Ed, you're going to have to come back on. We just started recording our live action case studies, which have been really cool. So we have 3 different versions of the podcast that you can learn about these marketing professionals in completely different ways. And as you go up in the tiers, you get more of that. So for example, the first level, you're not invited on the podcast. The second level, you're on the Get to Know You podcast, but not the other 2. At the top tier, you're allowed all 3 of the podcasts, a lot more exposure in the newsletter, a lot more exposure on the social media platforms that we have. And again, quite honestly, $440 a year, it's really not that much money if you think about. A lot of us have no problem spending $350 on a chamber of commerce. And no offense to any of the chambers. I love them. I know a lot of them. I love them. I have nothing against them whatsoever. But my problem is you join the chamber and then you do all the work. You do all the work. You have to go to all the networking events. You have to do all the follow-up. And God forbid if you do write a nice blog and you want them to put it in their newsletter, it's an additional $100 on average. Some of them are a little different, but the average is about $125 to get. So you pay the $300, then you add $125 to get your blog in the newsletter, and then you still do all the work.
Right.
Our version of this is $440, and we do some of the work, not all of it. You still have to write the blog, but we will help you promote it. We'll help you get on exposure on the social media. We do some of the work for you at the same price as a Chamber of Commerce. So I feel like it's a no-brainer. Like it's really a no-brainer that anybody who is in sales and marketing really should be on our platform. And I'm not saying that because I'm one of the co-founders, but I really do mean it. Like we've grown quite a bit over the last year. Our small business membership went from about 7 or 8,000 about a year ago to now at about 12 or 14,000, something like that. Our directory members went from about 300 to 425 in the last 6 months. So we've really been chugging along here, and with some I guess from the startup community out there, sustainable growth.
Right.
But yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun for us so far.
That's awesome. So I just want to be clear. So the amount of businesses is somewhere between 12 and 14,000. So that means the marketing professionals are getting exposure to those 12 to 14,000 businesses, correct?
Well, yeah, and on top of that, so 12 to 14,000 just in our small business membership. But if you think about the way in which we approach our social media is our personal social media accounts are all attached to Smarketing Connect as well. And between the founders, we have well over 20,000 connections on LinkedIn. Well over, our social media reach is an additional about 30,000 sets of eyeballs. So if you think about it in its totality, it's closer to about 40 to 45,000 sets of eyeballs that are potentially on your stuff.
Yeah, that's huge. And I know as a small business owner, I don't have that even myself, and I have a pretty large audience. So and I work at it. So that's a huge benefit. So Tom, other than the mobile app, which you just talked about, what else is coming for Smarketing Connect? What's coming down the road? That you can talk about today, without getting in trouble from the rest of the team.
Yeah, because Susan's going to hear something and she's going to think I just added work to her plate. I'm gonna be dead. To be honest with you, I think there's going. We're working because we have the two sides of the coin that are very different, and we have to satisfy both sides of that coin. I think right now the emphasis is really on the directory side and how we get our members happy, healthy, and healthy businesses and wanting to grow with us, number one. So I think, we just recently added that third podcast, as I mentioned. So, that type of exposure type stuff is going to be, we're revamping that all the time. So, but the other part of it, I think for the small business ownership side that we originally started to go away from, that I think is coming back. And I mentioned it earlier, where our first iteration of this was more like a matchmaker, where we can say, fill out this web form and tell us what you need. And then we'll go out and find a good marketing or sales professional for you and make the introduction. I think that's going to come back. I think that we let that go because we didn't see enough. Our audience wasn't quite big enough, to be honest with you. At the time, we didn't have enough people to judge whether or not that was valuable or not. I think we're getting back to the point where now we've got small business owners going, but what if? Like, what if I reach out to somebody on your platform and it doesn't work? Or what if, there's a lot of things like that now happening. So we want to take some ownership back into that, which is going to be so now we're going to develop some pretty good targeted web forms so they can fill out. And then we can go to our directory and say, all right, there are these 3 people. We think that they're qualified to do what you do, but make sure you do your own due diligence. Here's some questions you can ask them. So we give them the questions to make sure they ask their. So we're going to really help them along in understanding and identifying what they need, how they need it, and how to find it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's awesome. That's all. I can't wait. I'm ready to use it now.
we're not there yet.
No, I know. I said future stuff. What's coming? Future stuff,
yeah.
All right. Well, that's awesome. So Tom, I have the website up here, smarketingconnect.com. What if somebody has a specific question? Can they ask you, or how should they get in touch with you guys to ask a specific question they may have?
I'm pretty confident that they'll be able to find. We do have a couple of web forms, contact forms on the website that they can go in there and ask a question. If they can't find that, obviously, you can certainly find me or email me. My email address is that URL, but it's T as in Tom, Libby, Libby at smarketingconnect.com. I'm happy to answer any questions via email that I can. Or even on social media, if they want to connect with me on LinkedIn or something like that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Hopefully they can find the web form that gives them the vehicle to ask whatever question they're looking to ask. But if they don't, then I'll be happy to answer via email or LinkedIn. Awesome.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today and to answer all the questions. I'm going to send you backstage, so just hang out there for a minute. I'll say goodbye to you then. But right now, I just want to say thanks, everybody, for tuning in today. If you do have any questions about Smarketing Connect, please reach out to them, go to the website, fill out the form, or get in touch with Tom, as he said. One last thing before I go today. Would you like to be interviewed on Livestream Wednesday? Visit livestreamwednesday.com. Click the green Leave a Voicemail Here button and record and leave me a voice message, and someone from my team will get back to you within 2 business days. All right, friends. Well, that's it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in to Livestream Wednesday, and we'll see you next Wednesday right here at noontime. Take care and bye for now.